Welcome to Soft Bites Podcast, your life, your dentistry. We talk about ways to have more fun and meaning in one of the coolest and most rewarding professions in medicine. Conversations on how to bring awareness, create a healthy workplace, and provide emotional insights to make dentistry a fulfilling activity while making space for one's wonder, creativity, and freedom. Here are your hosts, Manuela and Jorge André.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our first episode of the Soft Bites podcast. So my name is Manuela Rodrigues. I'm here with Jorge André Cardoso. And today we chose as a theme to talk about on this first episode, something that me and André will discussed when we were the last time together. I've made him a question, and it was a very interesting conversation. And I think we share some points in common, but there are certain things that I think we complement each other. So we thought that this would be a good subject to bring here for the first episode of the podcast. So, André, my question is: are all dentists leaders, or only the ones that own a clinic? Give me your thoughts about that.
Hi, Manuela. Hi, everyone. Thanks for inviting me for the podcast, for the first episode. So that's a great question. Well, if you think it in a more strict way, well, it is obvious that the dentists that own clinics, they have more marked leadership role. I mean, they can eventually have someone else manage the clinic, but let's say that the manager or the owner, they have if you look at it in a very strict way, they have much more specific and let's say much more demanding leadership roles. And let's say that would be the ultimate level of leadership in dentistry is when you own a clinic, because there's a lot of complexity there. The amount of people that you need to deal with can be overwhelming, especially after you start to have some success or some growing in your practice. So the more people that you incorporate in the practice, the harder it will be, the more demanding the leadership will be, the more prepared you have to be, the more capabilities of delegation, the more capabilities of communication. That is something that whenever I hear talk about dentistry, that made me realize is that dentistry is a very unique profession that demands, even for the simple associate, it actually demands some important leadership skills. And like you used to say, you have to, in a certain way, you also have to be the leader of the patient when you are in front of the patient, when you are within a consultation. So even the associate, even the dentist that does not own the practice, needs to have some leadership traits, let's say it. He needs to understand leadership. And he needs to understand one of the most, I would say, maybe the most important skills of leadership, which is dealing with compromises and negotiation, because leadership is not dictatorship. I mean, life is not as you want it to be. Because if it was a dictatorship, leadership would be easy, right? So you go and do that, you go and behave this way. No one in your practice has vacations. No one chooses to have the same vacation at the same point, at the same time. No one chooses to get pregnant at the same year, But that's not the way. That's not how life works. Life is complex and life is unpredictable. And leading is negotiating within yourself, with the others. And from that point of view, dentistry, and I think it has some very specific conditions in dentistry that demand from the professional a high degree of leadership skills. like I was saying, with the dentist, with the patient, with the assistants, even though he may not be responsible for paying our salaries, he has to have some leadership capacities when he is within a team. So let's say, for example, he's just responsible for an interdisciplinary case, and he has to be able to have leadership skills to communicate with the assistants, to be able to make sure that the end goal, which is to do the best possible treatment for the patient within the less stressful environment and the easiest and smoothest path that everybody gets fulfilled and makes a financial reward that is fair. So yes, it's you have the ultimate leadership capacities, which is very demanding. But I don't think, and I think it's a mistake if you are an associate or if you are just a dentist that thinks that he or she will never own a practice. Even still, I believe it's very beneficial to learn leadership skills, because all these interactions within the team and within the patient will be easier. And that is something that I open my eyes with you, because most of the advice and the tips that I talk about on management, I usually make it from the point of view of the practice owner or the practice management. And it's not, and it's way more than that. Leadership goes also to dentists that do not own practices.
Yeah, that's my point of view. I already had the opportunity to share it with you, that I consider that all dentists have leadership roles, even the ones that are not clinic owners. Of course, the ones that are clinic owners, they are more aware for it, and of course they have greater responsibility. And that's what one of the things that I would like to ask to you also is if you think that a practice owner that works 5 or 6 days on the chair has the time to practice the leadership also. But before you answer to that, let me just say that the owners, of course, have more responsibility on leadership, and we are going to talk about that. But inside the cabinet with their patients, dentists are leading, right?
Yes.
And they have the influence and the power decision. And they must make hard decisions and tell people what they need to hear, but sometimes don't want to hear, right? And they have to be able to compromise, just like you said, and they have to be able to have a good communication with the team and with the assistant. So this is for every dentist. And one of the things, and when I have this discussion with colleagues, and that they think that they don't see it like that, and I say, okay, so if you think about it, if a dentist who is not a practice owner, right, if he has good leadership skills, right, then if a dentist stops working in a practice, right, he will take his patients with him for another practice. So, and that's I think it's the ultimate example
of leadership.
Of leadership, even if you don't own a clinic, and that the skills can be very useful for you. So, but let's go back to the practice.
Sorry, Manuela. Can I tell you a story? I think I've talked to you about this, and of course this story is in a very specific niche of dentistry. It's in a very high-end cosmetic practice in New York, but the same thing can happen in other sorts of dentistry. So I was hearing this podcast that some people were interviewing Larry Rosenthal. I don't know what the podcast was. I don't remember the name, but so basically there is this story that Larry Rosenthal, and by the way, Larry Rosenthal was one of the first high-end cosmetic dentists in New York. So he was treating all these well-known people, models, rock stars, presidents, and whatever. So he started doing adhesive dentistry, and he started to make veneers for very wealthy people. And there is this story that he never confirmed, But Donald Trump went to meet him, right? And he was at his office and he was just giving him a treatment plan. And he was saying, well, you need to do 20 veneers or 30 or whatever. You need to do a lot of veneers. And Donald Trump, he was a negotiator, said, well, no, but I only want 6. And, I only want 6. And he says, and this is not a confirmed story, but it is, people say that Larry Rosenthal to Donald Trump, which was already a very well-known character at that time. He was negotiating all the real estate. I think it was in the 80s or 90s, something like that. Mm-hmm. And Donald Trump says, well, I only want 6. And Larry Rosenthal said to him, look, you are in the wrong place. I'm not only going to do the 6. You either do the 20 or I prefer not to do it. So Donald Trump went away. And in the same story, which again, I don't know if it's true, I think that Donald Trump called him in the afternoon and said, look, okay, I will do the 20 veneers. And some people say that Donald Trump was just testing him. So, and this is, and he did not confirm this, and he for obvious reasons. But then in the same podcast, the authors asked Larry Rosenthal. By the way, Larry Rosenthal was the guy that Michael Appa, which is one of the most well-known dentists now, he was the apprenticeship and he bought the practice from Larry Rosenthal. And they asked Larry Rosenthal, well, you deal with a lot of rock stars, so many important people, models, you treat the best models in the world. How is it to treat those rock stars? I mean, they are very difficult people to work with. And he said one thing that I never forget, and I think it is a huge lesson, even if you work in a small village. He says, look, inside the cabinet, inside the dental office, there is only one rock star. And that rock star is me. And this is a very important lesson because you don't need to be doing veneers. Even if you work in a small village, in a small town, every time that you think about doing a compromise that you know is not right for the patient, something that is not on his best interest, you will eventually suffer inside. And if you keep compromising, you are placing in great danger fulfillment and joy within your life, not only financially, but also emotionally. So let me give you an example. You don't need to do veneers or full mouth rehabilitations in every patient, but if a patient comes and says, look, I only want to do the 6 anterior teeth, and you know it's a full wear case and you should do a full mouth, well, the patient may not have money to do everything in ceramics, but you need to do a full mouth, so you do it on composite. You are not going to compromise it doing only the 6 anterior teeth because you know it's not the right thing to do. I mean, you have to work within the limitations of the patient, but the rock star, the person who is in charge, is you. And you have to feel that. And sometimes, yes, you have to say no to patients because if it is in the best interest of the patients, I think it's what you have to do. So I never forgot about that. So inside the cabinet, there's only one rock star.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I teach on my mindfulness courses to dentists is that if you go, I mean, of course, and this is dentistry is special. There's a lot of components. There's a lot of so of course. You have to be able to compromise if the patient doesn't have the financial capacity, if the practice that you work with also doesn't have the access to the latest technology. We know that, but your compromise cannot be the easy fix. Your compromise cannot be the one that you feel inside, and we all know what that means, that you feel inside that you are not doing the best treatment to your patient, right? So, I believe in this leadership model, and again, this is for practice owners or non-practice owners, is for all dentists.
Absolutely.
This leadership model based on compassion. So, but it's wise compassion, right? So compassion is that you care as much, you care as much about others as you do about yourself. So you take care of others and you, as you would do to yourself. right? So you will deliver the treatment to your patient, the same treatment as you do it in your mouth or in your mother's mouth to your family, right? But compassion just by itself is not enough, of course. So you have to have the wise compassion, and wise, that's where it comes, the part that you, of course, you have to have the technical skills, you have to apply them, and you have to be able to make wise decisions. So you have to be able to, of course, compromise if the conditions are not the best, if the financial capacities are not the ones that you wish they were of your patient, but in a way that you feel that you are delivering your best, right?
Absolutely.
So that's why I believe in this model of wise, compassionate leadership for dentists, and I think it's a model that fits all dentists. So the practice owners and not the practice owners. Yes. And this also goes towards what you just said, because if you practice this, then you, just like you said, you will feel confident, right? So that will give you the confidence to I mean, not only to talk to your patient, to be assertive to your patient, to influence your patient in a positive way, but also to feel confident on your technical skills to perform, right? Because if you work based in fear, if you work based in he's saying this, and what about, but am I going to be able to, that's that's never good, right? That's never good. So if you are able to set your boundaries, right? Say no when you have to say no, to be able to identify the where what you cannot do in order to not do the easy fix, in order to not compromise your patient's health and your work, even your mental health, right? Because if you go through the easy fix, then in the end of the day, it will be there on your shoulders, right? It will be on your mind and on your shoulders, that weight that you know that, oh, I should not have done that. And anyway, the patient will be there 3 weeks, 1 month after, 2 months, 1 year after, but he will be there again, right? So, and it's there are studies that show that if the healthcare professional acts based only on empathy, right? So just wanting to relieve the immediate suffering of the patient, right? So just wanting to please the patient, then the complaints rate gets higher, right? Because you might even say it to your patient, look, I'm doing this, but I'm not sure if it's the right thing, but okay, you are insisting. It doesn't matter, because when things don't go well, that's not all they will remember. They will complain at the practice. They will say to their friends and loved ones that you did that, and it was not well done. And this is well studied. So you have to be able to bring this compassion, which is empathy in action, right? Not only for the immediate, but on the long term. So you're going to solve your patient problem on the long run. And that will give you the strength then to be assertive, to say no, to set boundaries, to reach a compromise also, but without compromising your integrity and your mental health also, which is very important. So I don't know if you want to say anything else about this. Well, otherwise, I would invite you to.
There's this quote that I just wrote down, and I usually use it throughout, whenever I'm talking about, which is caring about other people, but don't care about what they think of you. And this is a very difficult balance, which is exactly what you said. And I wasn't even aware there was this difference of you can have empathy and compassion, because for me, when I
heard you say that, I immediately identified the same thing that I say, but in another way. But it's exactly the same thing.
So that's the difference between
empathy. But continue, explain it, because you practice it, and it's one of the cornerstones of your practice, right?
Absolutely, but it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's very difficult because I think we are naturally, we are naturally wired to try to please, right?
Yeah.
True. And especially,
and empathy in healthcare, empathy is we are still very wired for that, for empathy. It's like the more empathetic you are, the more your patient is going to like you, or the more you're going to serve better your patient. That's still very wired on healthcare workers.
It's a very difficult it's a very difficult process if you are not guided on that. I really wish when I was 20 that someone had this conversation with me, because the change would not be immediate, but if I was confronted with this situation and given examples on a regular basis, I think I would suffer much less, because like I was saying, we are all naturally wired to please, to be, like you were saying, to be empathic, not to be with empathy, right?
Yeah.
And we are very naturally wired for empathy. And what I realize is that if you mix that natural wire with the private practice of dentistry, that you need to make money to survive, then you have the deadly combination, because you start to connect your success to financial success. And if the patient does not accept the treatment, you are not a good dentist. So it's in the beginning, it's difficult to understand this. And whenever I talk about this, I always try to give people small hints how they can do it. And for me, the most important thing is that you need to have mental space and mental time to talk to the patient, to explain him or her about why your decision is this way and why your proposal is this way, because otherwise you cannot explain a treatment plan that is sometimes expensive. You cannot explain that between appointments within 5 minutes. It's not possible to do that. So yes, you need to follow a compassion route. You need to present what's best for the patient. You need to start to place some seeds in the relationship with the patient, saying, look, this is what you should do, because if you don't do this, this is what will happen. Don't pressure the patient. I mean, there's a whole lot of techniques, of course, but I think the most important one, the basic one, is that you need to have time. You need to have time to do this, to lead the patient. And I think that is something that when I give advice to young dentists that don't own practices and that they work in practices, and I tell them, look, just try to convince your practice owner that this time is important, because financially, even financially, it will be better in the long term. Like you were saying, there are studies that say that if you go only with empathy, you only try to please the patient, in the long term, in the medium term, you'll find lots of issues, because the patients don't want you to be, and I think this is also the same thing. In other words, it's more important to be efficient than liked. And if you think about it in opposite ways, of course, it's a little bit strange. I mean, people have to like you. You have to be liked. But that cannot be the main goal of your practice. You don't want to be a dentist for people to only like you. You want to be a dentist to do what is best for them. And sometimes what's best for the patient is not what he wants to hear. But that is just life. And to give small steps in the direction of compassion more than empathy, I think it's the way to go. But having the time to talk to the patient humanly in a compassionate way, I think it's really the key. And without any time, you cannot apply any technique or any tips of communication. You cannot do that. You have to have time to be able to lead the patient. So I think that's a very important message. I mean, you cannot do transformations if you are stuck with empathy, and I think that we all are in the beginning of our careers. But if you are stuck there, you have to find ways to have time with the patient. It can be paid, it cannot be paid. And for me, the most important thing is to have time. If it's paid or if it's not paid, it depends on the practice where you are. But in the long term, even financially, it will be much better for you.
Yeah. Let me just tell you that about time. We can do just a podcast about time management
Absolutely.
in dentistry,
Absolutely.
and we have a lot to say there because time. I speak about stress reduction in dentistry every day, and one of the major things on how to reduce stress in dentistry is good time management.
Yeah.
If not the first one. And I usually give out this example that for me it was like it's, and I still continue to have it, which is funny. So when due to the pandemic, right? So all offices were closed for what, 2-3 months, maybe 2 months, something like
I
that.
think, at least.
And then when they slowly returned to work, you had this new protocols, right?
Yeah.
Because of the protection material, etc. So basically, practices had to had bigger time for appointments and less patients, right?
Yeah.
So I had a lot of colleagues saying to me, "Look, Manuela, my stress problem is solved." Now,
momentarily,
since I got back to work, less patients, more time for the appointments. I don't run around in automatic pilot anymore. I have time for my patients. I have time to do the procedures with time. So and that's when I heard this was exactly my question after. So are you going back? Because all of this is going one day, right? And already nowadays things are already normal.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them said, "Oh yeah, no way, you get me there again. This is going to stay like this." And then other ones, I have to because of money and the practice is not mine, etc., etc. But this is the biggest example, right? So it takes a pandemic for you to see that your biggest stress issue was time management, that you needed more time with your patients. So, and this leads me to the second part regarding of what you just said. For having good time management, for knowing the difference between empathy and compassion, to be able to change your behaviors in a more compassion way, to be able to observe yourself if you are acting on empathy or compassion, you need self-awareness, right? And that's something that it's also not taught in dentistry. And that's why I think, again, that mindfulness is huge and it's super important and I see this also, this shift of perspective on dentists when they become aware of all of this. They become aware of themselves and they become aware of everything that it's actually happening inside themselves and in the environment when they start to have self-awareness. But if you don't have self-awareness, then you cannot make that shift that you just said. So, and this has to be, of course, this has to be learned. This has to be trained. It can be developed. It's a skill. It's like I usually say, it's like learning to play an instrument.
Yeah.
But it's possible. It's possible, and you will feel the benefits, and they are huge. But if you don't have self-awareness, and if you don't have time, if you don't have self-awareness, and if you have appointments every half an hour, how can you then you have like a highly skilled treatment to do with a highly emotional person in front of you, because no one likes to go to the dentist, right? So basically, and you have a short amount of time to perform that highly skilled treatment. So it's like, what am I doing? Am I acting based on compassion or on empathy? What she's talking about? I have no time for that. Yeah, of course. Right. So, and all of this that we are already talking, and that we are going to talk about on the podcast, and that we are going to talk about on our course. Yeah. It's really, it needs a change of perspective on the way that you face your everyday dentistry, right? I see it that usually the dentists that come to me, the colleagues that come to me, they're already ready for that change. They know that they can change something on their dentistry practice to make it enjoyable. That, or at least they know that they don't want to leave that dentistry practice like the way that they are leaving it, because it's leading them to exhaustion. It's leading them to be unhappy and sick. But if you really look, I mean, you cannot blame them. I mean, for us, we are talking about because we learned and we practice it and we try, like you said in the beginning, well, I try to practice it. Yeah, but you have to have the intention of it.
Yes.
But if you never heard about these things, if you don't realize that you are basically spending your day just reacting to your patient, that you are being controlled by your patient,
that you are not leading them, that they are leading you.
Yeah. That's it. So, and it's all. These are all sometimes very hard concepts. If you are just practicing that dentistry, that you are basically in survival mode.
Reactive
so I think
mode,
that also what we are trying to bring here is this notion that you can practice your dentistry from a place of flow, from a place of groundness, instead of a place of reactivity. But it's possible, right? It's possible, but it's not taught to us. No one, at least I don't know about you, but does someone teach you this in university?
No, they haven't.
Yeah.
And I think you were talking, and I was about to ask you. I think it's very personal, right? What makes you want to search for these things? I think at some level it's innate. I mean, it comes from something inside you. I remember the first time that I got curious about yoga, for example. I think it was before I went on an interrail. I went with my cousin in the year of 98 or something like that. And I went to Amazon and I bought this book about yoga, the Tibetan Yogas of Dream and Sleep. And it was the first time that I read something about self-awareness, about being the present, about noticing your surroundings, about noticing yourself, about noticing what's going on, about being an observer more than a reactor. And I think that if you ask me, so why did you get that book? I don't know. I have no idea. And I wasn't even working yet. But I think that came out of curiosity. That's the first thing. But then when I started to work, I opened a practice. I was doing a master's degree. My personal life was on the verge of rupture. So I think that was not out of curiosity, that was out of pain. So it's even within one person, sometimes what leads you to search. So there must be a way of doing this difference. And that's one thing. But also now when I look at I'm 43, and what makes me want to learn more about this is to have, it's a third thing. It is, well, I've lived almost half of my life, right? I'm maybe at the peak of my career, and I want to be happier and happier and happier. So you put things in perspective and say, look, yes, I've went through a lot. I am happy most of the time of most of the days. I would say I'm very happy most of the time. I can't deny that. But I want to have a peaceful second half of my life. I want to enjoy myself. I want to have fun. I want to contribute. So how can I do that? So those were three different reasons. So the first, curiosity. The second was out of pain, pure pain. And now because I think that I want a peace, and I want to, maybe it's more of a spiritual way of searching for help. Maybe it's that way. But those are three different reasons why I want to understand how I work, how people work, how we can better work together, and what are my strong points, what are my weak points, why do I react the way I do to certain specific ways. And I think you have to come from a place of self-awareness. You have to understand who you are. You have to understand what makes you happy. And you have to understand how you interact with others. Because at the end of the day, and this may sound like a cliche, but it's true, we are all on the same boat, and we are all one. And we have to be able to understand how all this works. Because the more you differentiate yourself from the others, the more you think, there's something wrong with the world, they have to adapt to me. You become lonely and lonely and lonelier. So I think that at this point, the third reason why I keep searching for help and I keep searching to improve myself is because I want to know how I can better function within a team and how I can contribute to that. So yeah, those were very different ways. And I'm sure that you have a lot of students that go to you, and there are maybe some other ways. Maybe sometimes it's the wife that says, "Look, you are not at home in time. So I just bought you this course from this girl, Manuel, and you have to go and do the course." I mean, there are many ways to search for that.
You just mentioned the three main reasons that takes dentists to
and we haven't rehearsed that. We had a small script, but that was not on the script.
But that's true. The first one is curiosity. So, okay, mindfulness. What's this? It's this for me. It's not. Let me see what she's saying. Let me see what she's saying. Let me see how can I apply this to my dentistry practice. The second is suffering. So it's the dentist that, and it was the one that led me also to mindfulness. It's some. I mean, suffering in a mental way, some suffering in a physical way also. Absolutely. Because I mean, stress can be, it could lead you not only to exhaustion and to mental exhaustion, but also to become physically sick.
Absolutely.
Right? So suffering. I had a dentist one time that told me something that I'll never forget. He said, "Look, I don't know what you're teaching. I don't know what you're doing, but I need something." I'm in such a state of suffering in my work, of having no meaning in my work, of wanting to give up. But I love the profession, but I cannot handle it anymore. So I will do your course and cool. And then the third
that is so cool.
Are
that
the ones.
It must be very cool to be able to have people searching you for that, isn't it? That is so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I would like it that it would be like more in a preventive way, that they didn't reach the state of exhaustion, and that's actually my goal. Is that that dentists could start seeing this as a something that is part of their continual education, as dentists, something that they need. Because I mean, let's face it, stress is a big part of dentistry. Another part of the podcast, we can just talk about stress, because sometimes there's much confusion about stress and anxiety, because they are two completely different things. Because you cannot eliminate stress from dentistry. That's impossible, right? You cannot have a stress-free dentistry. All dentists agree on this, but you can have an anxiety-free dentistry. So it would be interesting to talk only about this a bit, to really differentiate these two, because these are really, really important to differentiate. But since we all agree that you cannot have a stress-free dentistry, then why is not taught to dentists to manage their stress? Why is not taught to dentists to distinguish between stress and anxiety? So do you understand what I'm saying? So my goal is to make all of this available in a way that dentists don't think like it's a luxury, that they don't have time for it, because this is basic. It's on the basic level of dentistry, because you have to be healthy mentally and physically to be able to perform well. Right. But and I would say, and the third group are the last group that would be on the stage that you are. So they are the ones that already heard about this, that already...
The older guys, basically, right?
No, I think there's a new generation that is already very aware of all of these things. There's a new generation that is already aware of the power of the soft skills, and that they already are aware of the
sense of community, right?
Yeah, and also I have this new generation that comes to me that says, I don't want to live dentistry on a fight-flight mode.
Yes.
Right. So they are already aware of the ways that they can operate. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
But also, okay, old of our generation, also people that already know about mindfulness, already have a meditation practice, already have self-awareness, right? And they wanted to take to the next level, right? So they want to learn how to apply it in their dentistry practice. They want to, just like you said, they want to spend the rest of their careers in their best shape. Because if we think about it, I mean, this might happen with other professions, but I mean, I only know dentistry, so that's all I'm going to talk about. But dentistry kinds of mixture with it gets into your life, right?
Yeah.
So at a certain moment, it's also already it's like it's your life, like dentistry, right? So and that doesn't have to be a bad thing. Of course, you have to distinguish your work from your life. You have to be able, when you get out of the practice, to really get the practice out. But it's a big part of your life. So if you learn how to optimize that, if you learn to also how to have fun with that, then it's a huge part of your life. Then that gets better, right? And then you are able to do it in your best shape, right? Mentally, physically, it's like you said. I consider it to be when nowadays there's a lot of people talking about a holistic dentistry, right?
Yeah.
So that you treat your patient, not just treat the whole person, not just the teeth, right?
Yeah.
But for you to be able to practice a holistic dentistry, you have to include yourself on that. So how can you practice a holistic dentistry if you don't take care of yourself? If you don't include yourself on that?
Yes.
Right. And this is very basic. And when I say this, it's like, you're right. So it's like it's something that I think that we are ready, because when I say this, it already makes sense to dentists. They might not already be practicing it, but it's already makes sense. I think that 20 years ago, when I graduated, if someone came with this conversation, it's like, to dentists, I don't think that dentists were quite ready for this.
Yes.
But nowadays, I think that dentists are getting ready to hear these things and to start practicing these things. And this is something that we can also talk about in another episode of the podcast, that you are passionate about that. But this is basically biology, right? This is basically our body producing the neurochemicals, right? This is basically us being aware of the way that we are operating during our days.
Yeah. Dentistry should be something contributing to your life and not making it harder.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. And that's why I think that us speaking about all of this subjects and it will contribute for some colleagues to
yes, that's the goal.
To feel that it's possible to have a different dentistry and to feel that it works. Because what I feel, I don't know if you have that same feeling, is that sometimes there are dentists that, okay, they see what you are saying, but they think it will make them lose money.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. When you were talking, I think I was always thinking about that. Well, people say, well, that's very beautiful, but that's very nice. But at the end of the day, I have to make money because I have to pay this and this and that. Well, of course, that you have financial commitments. You have to do that. You have to be aware of that. But I think that you have to understand that in the long term, mindfulness, in my opinion, and self-awareness will not only will bring you a financially more rational balance between your happiness and your financial stability. I really don't think, for myself, I don't really think that I would ever place my financial success above my mental health, number one. And when I say financial success, of course, that you cannot, money will not solve all of your problems, of course, but it will solve the basic one. So if you are not making enough money for what you think is what will bring you the minimum comfort, of course you have to change, and you have to go, either you have to go to work in another practice, either you have to open a practice, either you have to sell your practice, or you have to move abroad and go to other country. Of course you need to have what is the minimum financial comfort for you. But above that, of course you have to think about it in the long term. But at the end of the day, you have to think that the goal of life is not to make money. The goal of life is it's to be happy. It sounds like a cliche, but it's true. And money is a part of that. But you cannot be a slave of the financial aspects of your career. I mean, if you own a practice with many people and you think and you look at your expenses and you have to do this and you have to sell this amount of dentistry, you really have to look inside all the details within your business to understand where is the money coming in, where is the money coming out, and how can you do that transformation so that you have the time that you want, and so that you can overcome the issues that you want that you have. So once again, you have to be self-aware of what you are doing. You have to. I think it's like you levitate from your body while you are working. You look down at your practice, at your life, and look it as a system and say, look, this is not right here. This is not right here because I'm not happy. I'm not spending enough weekends with the family. I'm not going surfing enough. I'm not traveling enough. So from an outside perspective, which is basically self-awareness, where can I change? Where do I need to change? Can I do it with myself? Do I need to seek help? And try to find other people that went through the same things and were able to overcome it. Because, I mean, information is all out there. You just have to find it, and it has to make sense to you. I think you have to talk to people that have gone through the same thing. It has to make sense to you so that you can do the change that you want. And of course, we all have very different goals. Some people want to make money because they want to retire early. Some people want to make money to buy houses or to buy cars. Some people just want to have fun. Some people just want to travel. Some people just want to have families and raise kids. It's very different. But if your goals are not being met, and if you are not happy in what you are doing, you have to make changes. And for me, and this is a very personal view, and honestly, more and more people I see thinking the way that I think, honestly, more recently. I wasn't aware of that, but even here in Portugal. And I think you have to have money for your comfort. You have to have money for your future goals. You have to save money. You always have to save money, my opinion, even if it's little, even if it's a small amount. But it needs to be intention in what you are doing. I'm doing this because I want to be in this situation next year, 2 years, or 3 years. I mean, it may seem like for me when I was younger, I thought that scheduling stuff and making goals would remove the sexiness of life, you know. I mean, this
should be boring, right?
Yeah, just let it flow, whatever happens. But I think that when you live your life that way, you will be unhappier than if you do things intentionally. So I want to travel For example, I'm going to Costa Rica for 3 weeks at the end of the year. And I at this point in time, I can take vacations about 2 months a year, which is something which is very good, which I'm very grateful for. I would like in the future to be able to spend like to have a year with 6 months of vacations, or at least one every 3 years or something like that. But that will not happen by magic. It will not happen by magic.
Mm-hmm.
There must be intention. I mean, I need to gather a team that has my back. And how can they have my back? By me having their back as well.
Yeah.
Right? Otherwise, it's impossible. They need to understand that I have their back so that they can have my back, so that I can do the things that I want. I can save the money that I want for what I want, and I want to do the things that I want the way that I want, right? But for me to be able to do the things that I want, I need to help them to get the things that they want as well. And this is a big part of leadership. I mean, the best way that you can influence people is to let them influence you. So you have to listen to them, and you have to so that you can do the things that you want.
And that leads me to that question that I already raised, so that we don't say goodbye without answering it. Do you think, let's go back to leadership for clinic owners. Do you think that it's possible for a clinic owner to be a good leader, to practice a good leadership for his teammates, for his patients, for the person that are part of the clinic? Because if you think about it, it's not only assistants and colleagues. You have the lab, it's a lot of work, right? Do you think it's possible for a practice owner to be a good leader if he works 5 or 6 days in the chair?
No, I think you need to have, even if you like clinical practice, and if you love clinical practice, if you want to be the manager of your practice, you need to have, I would say between 15 and 20% of the time working, not clinically, but doing management. I mean, not placing your gloves. You need to not place the gloves on about 15% of the time. That would be my suggestion. Because otherwise, and you cannot book that time and then start to fill it with patients that have emergencies. I mean, you have to be strict with that. And of course, we will talk a lot about that in the podcast, how you can make that transition. But I don't think it's possible, because you will get extremely frustrated. Your team will get frustrated with you. You will not be able to have a sustainable leadership in your practice if you want to be the leader, if you don't spend, I would say 15% at least of the time doing without your gloves, just doing management, just thinking about the process, about the system, and implementing it. That's my opinion. I don't think it's possible to spend too much time working.
Well, I don't think it's possible also, and it comes. It has to do with what you said before. You have to be intentional in your work. So I think that for my opinion, and again, I was never a practice owner, so this is
yes, of course.
This is just what I observe. But my opinion is that practice owners have to make choices. Right? They have to make choices. Right? They have to make choices. You said gloves on, right, on the mouth of the patient, and then they have to delegate the management. They have to delegate the management.
Absolutely.
And there's a way of delegating the management. If you don't want a manager that has nothing to do with dentistry, nowadays there are dentists that are able to do the management. Or you like the leadership part, and then you have to compromise. And then you have to be intentional. You have to understand what amount of time do you need to manage your team. What amount of time you need to manage your practice, and what amount of time you want to work on the chair, on the mouth of the patient. And then you have to be really intentional with your time. You cannot compromise, like you said. You cannot, on the days that are just for management, it's just for management. You have to really be strict about that.
Yes.
But I don't think that a dentist, which is a practice owner, just if he has full-time schedule, full-time agenda with patients, the days that the practice is open, then and we know that I know a lot of dentists who are not only managers, they are dentists, managers, accountants, they do the marketing of the practice, they go shopping for the practice. I don't know. They are multitasking. They are big multitaskers, but something will fail. Something will be left behind. You will not have a good communication with your team. So it's really something that I think that's something that practice owners are already aware of. It's
a recipe for drama. It's a complete recipe for drama.
Okay, so let's finish the first episode. I think it's already it's a long one. There's something else that you want to say about?
I think one thing that I would add to that is that this may feel scary. So now I work. Someone is listening to this. So I work 6 days a week. I cannot stop working 6 days a week. These guys are here telling that I need to spend at least 1 day doing management. How can I do that? Well, the trick is do it step by step, doing it slowly. Think about, make a plan and doing that transition, okay? So let's say you can say, okay, I'm going to, as soon as I have a free agenda, I'm going to book that month, that day. And I'm going to give small steps. So I'm going to spend 1 day a month, and then 2 days a month, and then 4 days a month, and that is 1 day a week. So it needs to be step by step, but then you have to plan your way out. You have to communicate with your patients that you are probably going to stop doing some procedures, and how you communicate that, how you talk to them, how is that information presented to the patient in a compassionate way, not in an empathic way, right? So don't get scared. Do it step by step. And I'm sure that in the next podcast, we'll give you a lot of tips and hints that you will appreciate so that you can have the transition to have the fulfillment in dentistry that you want.
In the next podcast, we're going to talk about how to be a better leader in a multidisciplinary team. So there will be tips and practical step by step on how to do that, but not only on the next podcast. I mean, on all our conversations. On all our conversations.
On every podcast.
I think we're going to be talk not only about how to make that specific transition, right? On how to find time on your agenda if you are a practice owner, to practice the leadership that it's a leadership that is effective, because that's what we also are talking about. It's not only to enjoy it and to have fun, it's to be effective, right? To be intentional and to be effective.
Of course.
And I think that it's one of the good things that we have between the two of us. And I don't think I mentioned this, but I think I find it really interesting when I started to hear you talking, that you talk in the practical way of the things that I say in a theoretical way. So we complement each other very well, because you have the practical actions. First of all, you practice what you preach. So you practice those actions in your practice. So, and that's how you came up with them also, right?
Yeah, I try to, it's not a smooth path to be a doer, to actually try to do what you say that you do and try to motivate a team to do that. It's not a smooth path. And you have to, again, you have to care about the team more than you care about what they think of you. because what is the best for the team is sometimes not what some specific member wants to hear. But yes, I try to be a doer. Yes, I am. I try to be a doer. Yes, as much as possible.
And that's why I think we complement so well, because I'm more focused. Of course, I can give the practical actions, but I'm more focused on the other part also, about the development of self-awareness, of emotional intelligence, of the mindfulness itself, of the stress reduction. And you put all of this in practical actions and practical step-by-steps protocol. I think you are very good at that, on make things simple and effective. So I think of our conversations, there will be always practical actions that dentists can take.
And what goes right and what goes wrong, and how to prevent some stuff. But I think that practicality without intention and without thought is nothing, just pure chaos. I mean, you have to think about what you're doing. It has, like you were saying, when you talk about mindfulness, and those are very important things, because the intentions, the goals, they need to make sense for the. I mean, you cannot place into practice something that you don't believe and understand. It does not make sense to you. It needs to make sense to you, and you need to find that reason why you are doing this. And I think that's why you are very good at it, which is explaining this why they need to do this. Because if you don't do this, you know, of all the drama that we all know, of all the drama and inefficiency. But I think I like the word drama, because it defines many emotional things that go on. I would say in most of the dental practices, there's a lot of drama. And drama is one of the worst things, because drama kills joy, drama kills wonder, drama kills curiosity, drama kills fun. Drama, if extended throughout many years, makes people apart. And I think that the opposite is to accept each other, even within our own limitations. So that's why I think you're very good at it, and explaining why you need to do this.
Let me just say something that came to my mind when you were saying drama. I totally agree with you. And do you know why I think that dentistry, and when I ask this to dentists, when they are relating all the drama, just like you said, that their day is when they are working and in the practice, etc. And when I ask them, why do you think that happens? Why is there all that drama? Why do you spend your days like that? And and it's the patient, and it's the assistant that I tell her not to book emergencies, and then this and that. And
it's my boss.
It's the emotions, right? So this is drama equals drama equals emotional reaction. So it's like when you have a difficult conversation, it's because you are afraid of your emotional response, or of the emotional response of the other person. So there's this, and again, we go back to self-awareness, but there's this lack of awareness of how emotions play a big role in dentistry. And dentists are only aware of the emotions of the patient, of course, because they have a person in front of them that can have anxiety, but there's all kinds of emotions during a day of work in a clinical office. And that, if you are not aware of it, equals drama. And if you develop the self-awareness, if you develop this emotional intelligence, the drama will drop significantly.
Well, I have a lot to learn from that. I have a lot, because being a doer, sometimes I just want the thing to happen. I just want the drama to end. But people are not robots, I am not a robot. So I have a lot to learn in that, because I am emotionally, I think I could improve a lot in terms of of emotional awareness. Because, like you were saying, being very, very, very results driven and be very action driven, sometimes you forget that People are not machines.
Yeah, and we don't have time, but I had here, and I told you, I had here some leadership models for us to compare, but maybe on another episode we can do that, but because we already have 1 hour, but we can go back to the leadership model in dentistry and what we think is the best, because there are I think that by us speaking about the leadership models, I think there will be dentists that say, oh yeah, that's me. Because when I told you this leadership models, you told me, yeah, that one, I think that was the way I started. Now I'm evolving. So I think it will bring some awareness to some dentists. But okay, we'll leave it to another episode because this one is quite long.
Yeah, we'll have leadership models.
Yeah. And let's just do a short invitation, because we are going to have our course. We're going to have a 3 days immersion course on conscious leadership in dentistry in a very beautiful place in the south of Portugal, in Algarve, in Sagres, where we are going not only to talk about all of this, but to teach all of this in a practical way, giving the protocols, giving the step by step. I will teach how to develop and train self-awareness and emotional intelligence that we just talked. You will give the all your know-how that you practice on your practice, and it will be a very practical and a very fun 3 days. To every dentist that is listening and seeing us here, just bring the curiosity, open up your mind, and join us on these 3 days, because I think it will be not only fun, but that you will take a lot from this course.
Yeah, and we'll also add some ready-to-use tools, formats, and templates that you can use for management and for communication. And I think it will be very interesting. It will be I'm really looking forward to that in the the wonderful scenery of the south of Portugal. And I think that I'm looking forward to that.
So it will be in March next year, and we will give all the information on the show notes. We'll leave the link, and yeah. Bring your curiosity, bring your open mind, and just like you do when you listen to us on this episodes, and join us, and we will see you on the next episode.
Thank you, Manuela. Bye bye.
Thank you, André. Bye bye.